All right, y'all, all praise to the Most High. First and foremost, and give us a salute to all the brothers and sisters scattered across the four corners, teaching this word with sincerity and charity. Grateful for another day to exalt his name, another day to delve into the book, delve into a little history, and put some things together, man. It's like, we start putting these pieces together, we start filling in these gaps, man. The better understanding we have, the more we can read. It's important to read the text with the right tone. All right, let me add a few things. Give me a minute, y'all, to add a few things to the show. And not the show, to class. To class, y'all. Let me add a few things to class. And there he go, right there. And so we can have everything prepared. So I know I came into this thing at the last second. I be thinking I be having stuff still set up and I can just come in and hit the button, but nah, it just never works like that. It should, though. Just gotta get better. Gotta get better at the preparation. It was something I sent myself. There it is there. All right, we close that, and then we back. I put the link out there. Slides. Nope. Invite. So today we gonna be talking about the Pharisees, man. We're gonna be getting into the Pharisees. Where did they come from? Where did the Pharisees come from? Why don't we see the Pharisees? Why don't we see the Pharisees in the old text, in the not in the old text, but the Old Testament? Why don't we see synagogues? Why don't we see synagogues? What were they doing? Was that Elijah had the school of the prophets? What was that like? We're not gonna be getting into that, but how was it? Were we just going to the temple back then? Like, what was going on? Like, and a lot of these things we just go through the text and we read it like it was just always like that, and it's not. Again, we had a big gap. We got a big gap in the text, but we think the Maccabees, first and second Maccabees, fills this gap, but it doesn't. All right, it still leaves a gap of about 160 years before Christ comes on earth. We'll still have a gap in between that thing. Still waiting on brothers and sisters to get in. Link is in the chat for anybody. Here's the brothers trying to come up. Unless I put it in the other chat. But nah, I think it's in my live chat. Yeah, brother Dion popped on. So we finna get this thing started momentarily. Listen, this is gonna be very informal. Gonna be a lot of information given here, and a lot of this stuff you already know. You know about the Pharisees and how they dealt, and how they was moving with Yahushua, and so you already understand that. But this is more so to delve into how did that thing even come about? How did we get the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, the Zealots, who else? How do we get all of these different sects? And all these sects are just pretty much like camps. It's pretty much about the same thing. Let me put that thing out there. Brother Dion, I don't really see you in there. It looks kind of funny. It don't look like I can bring you up. You might have to leave out and come back. Am I posting in the back room? I can't be. Paste. So yeah. We gonna get this thing started. Soon I get a reader up here. Alright, there go my brother. Shalom, Mark.
Shalom, Mark.
So again, yeah, look into the historical look into the Pharisees. Do you know about the Hasmonean dynasty? Do you know about, Israel's kings after the because a lot of people, man, a lot of times we read that first, second Maccabees, we do the Feast of Dedication, and we just, boom, everything is just, everything is great. We retook the temple. All right, we retook the temple, rededicated the temple. Okay, now what? Now what happened after that? How do we have these different sects? How do we have Romans leading us? How do we have Herodians? Who are the Herodians? How do we have, Gentiles ruling over us still? If we conquered them and we had this great war and we rededicated the temple, like what's going on? Like what's really going on? So we got to understand all of these things. And what's the beef? Why the Pharisees and the Sadducees beefing and that whole nine? So we gotta definitely look into these things, man, and that's what we're gonna do today. That is what we're gonna do today. It's gonna be a little reading here, but it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be a lot of information.
Hey, shalom, family.
Shalom, brother Michael.
How's everybody?
Man, everybody good. Well, I can't speak for everybody. Let me talk about. I'm alright.
All right. How you doing, brother Dion?
Alright, man.
All right.
I'm alright. So we go ahead and crank this thing up, man.
Hey, shalom. Yeah,
man, my computer's moving super slow.
Shalom, brother.
What's going on, brothers?
Can you hear me out?
Yeah, I hear y'all.
We hear like you out in the ball, Eliezer and brother Michael still spinning.
Oh, you got them spinning? They ain't here.
Yeah.
They ain't here though.
Okay.
Let me exit full screen, man. I can't see. Can y'all see that? When I do full screen, can y'all see the full screen or?
Can't.
Yeah, can't.
It look better when I do it full screen like that.
Yeah.
Okay, all praise.
Yes, let's brother.
All praise. All right, so the Pharisees, the separate ones. Pharisees means the separate ones. We'll look into a little bit of that. Pharisees, separatist party, emerged largely out of the group of scribes and sages. The term Pharisee comes from the Hebrew and Aramaic parush or parusha, which means one who is separated. It may refer to their separation from Gentiles, sources of ritual impurity, or from irreligious Jews. I don't know if y'all gonna be able to see that. Can y'all see that? I may have to read that. But it's too small.
Yeah, look, yeah. I can see it on my TV, but not on my phone.
Yeah, I don't know how to zoom that thing in. Anyway, I'm gonna read it. All right, it's G5330. Pharisees, a sect that seems to have started after the Jewish exile. In addition to Old Testament books, the Pharisees recognized in old oral tradition a standard of belief and life. They sought for distinction and praise by outward observance and external rites, and by outward forms of piety, and such as ceremonial washings, fastings, prayers, almsgivings, and comparatively negligent of genuine piety. They prided themselves on their fancy good works. They held strenuous to a belief in the existence of good and evil angels and to the expectations of a Messiah. And they cherished the hope that the dead, after a preliminary experience either of reward or penalty in Hades, would be recalled to life by him and be requited each according to his individual deeds. In opposition to the usurped dominion of the Herods and the rule of Romans, they stoutly upheld the theocracy of their country's cause and possessed great influence with the common people. According to Josephus, they numbered more than 6,000. They were bitter enemies of Yahushua and his cause, and were in turn severely rebuked by him for their avarice, ambition, hollow reliance in outward works, of an affection of piety in order to gain popularity. And it says here, separate or separatist. Comes from the root word parash, which means scatter, to declare, to make a distinction, to separate. You got separate also here. And let's go into this Britannica real quick.
Hey, Shalaki.
Go ahead,
Hey, what's the difference between set apart and separate?
Oh man, the browser can't access your screen, trying to capture a different screen. That is terrible. But set apart and separate, I don't know. I don't think it's a difference. I think it's just a small wordplay. As far as they kind of both mean the same. Like they're trying to set themselves apart. They're trying to separate themselves from unholiness.
Okay. So they're trying to be holy.
They're trying to be holy. They think they holy. They they put the bad name on it. It ain't that, it's a bad name. Share screen. Okay, we got it. All praises. Can y'all see my screen?
It's spinning. There you go.
All right. Do y'all can somebody read that or not?
I can read it.
You can read that? Okay,
move it up just a little bit so I can get the whole you dig.
What you mean move it up?
Just scroll up right there.
Okay.
Pharisee, member of a Jewish religious party that flourished in Palestine during the latter part of the Second Temple period, 515 BCE to 70 CE. The Pharisees, insistent on the binding force of oral tradition, the unwritten Torah, remains a basic tenet of Jewish theological thought. When the Mishnah, the first constituent part of the Talmud, was compiled about 200 CE and incorporated the teachings of the Pharisees of Jewish law.
Hold up right there. So when you hear anybody talk about the Talmud or the Mishnah, these are oral traditions from the Pharisees. And not saying that you can't glean from it, not saying that everything in there is just trash, but we have to understand that this is produced by Pharisees that rejected the Messiah, that the Messiah was going against. So a lot of those oral traditions that are in there are exactly the same thing, the things that the Hamashiach was sitting here dogging them out about, on how to observe certain things, because I know brothers will go here They'll go to the Talmud, or they'll go to these other, these other Jewish, old Jewish books where, and they'll try to glean from it on how to observe certain things. But you're going to see that this oral law was an attempt by the Pharisees because they re-get into the temple. All right, this thing spurred from the temple. They're gonna get into that after we rededicated the temple. So now we trying to, it's a different time period. We living in different times, and we say that stuff today. We living in different times. So a lot of the oral traditions were some things on how to observe certain things with different technology, living in a different period. With under different circumstances. Just like today, when people, should we use the electricity on the Sabbath? Is that kindling fire? Is it kindling fire to start the car up? Is it picking up a chair? Is that the work? Or what I'm saying? Is pants a woman's garment? So we still having these same debates and so forth. And when they kind of got back to trying to rededicate the temple, these debates end up causing all of these different groups, the zealots, the Sicarii, the Essenes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the sages, the scribes, because of the different thought on how we should be keeping these things. But we're gonna see that the Pharisees were kind of, they were more, trying to keep this thing as traditional as possible. But they kind of went a little left. Go ahead, Shalaki.
The Pharisees, Hebrew Parashim, emerged as a distinct group shortly after the Maccabean revolt, about 165 to 160 BCE. They were in the general it is generally believed, spiritual descendants of the Hasidians. The Pharisees emerged as a party of laymen and scribes in contradiction to the and distinction to the Sadducees, the party of the high priesthood that had traditionally provided the sole leadership of the Jewish people. The basic difference, Shalaki.
So we see that the Sadducees are the high priests. This one we rededicated, like we just got the temple base after the Maccabean revolt. Right after we trying to get this thing back together, and then there's confusion and people saying, "Nah, I don't want them to be the priests." And so the Sadducees are the high priests. They are the upper class. They are the aristocrats. They are the upper echelon. All right, they the upper echelon, the bougie, got their nose up, and they in pocket with the Gentiles. And the Pharisees were kind of middle upper class. They that next level. But the Pharisees didn't like the Sadducees, the way they was doing the temple and their thoughts on how to run the temple as high priests. And a lot of them, didn't know they was Levites. You know what I'm saying? Nobody knew if they was a Levite or not. A lot of these folks were pretty much Judites, and they was becoming kings, and the kings were being high priests. And this is why I'm saying the Pharisees were believed that they were the Hazadeans, and I think that's kind of in reference to the Hasmoneans, which was a line from those from that Maccabean revolt, from Judas, Maccabees, John Hyrcanus. Those family members end up being rulers in Israel all the way up to about 40, 50 BC. Go ahead, though.
The basic difference that led to the split between the Pharisees and the Sadducees lay in their respective attitudes towards the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, and the problem of finding in it answers to questions and basis for decisions about contemporary legal and religious matters arising under circumstances far different from those of the time of Moses. In their response to this problem, the Sadducees, on the one hand, refused to accept any precept as binding unless it was based directly on the Torah, them Old Testament Israelites, huh?
Well,
Uh,
that's all that was there at that time. The Sadducees are 5 books only. They
Con.
didn't really, they didn't think that the prophets, that was binding. The Psalms, they didn't think that was binding, far as law. They said the only law that's really, really law is it was kind of like brother saying today, man, well, Paul ain't really law. Paul
Right,
ain't
right, right.
really, you know what I'm saying? The Sadducees were like
Con.
that with the first 5 books. That's all they wanted to deal with. The Pharisees were the opposite. They like, nah, bro, y'all going off with that.
Con. They refused to accept any precept as binding unless it was based directly on the Torah, i.e., the written law. The Pharisees, on the other hand, believed that the law that God gave to Moses was twofold, consisting of the written law and the oral law, i.e., the teachings of the prophets and the oral traditions of the Jewish people, whereas the priestly Sadducees taught that the written Torah was the only source of revelation. The Pharisees admitted the principle of evolution in the law. Humans must use their reason in interpreting the Torah and applying it to contemporary problems. Rather than blindly follow the letter of the law, even if it conflicted with reason or conscience. The Pharisees harmonized the teachings of the Torah with their own ideas of found their own ideas suggested or implied in it. They interpreted the law according to its spirit. When in the course of time a law had been outgrown or superseded by changing conditions, they gave it a new or more acceptable meaning, seeking scriptural support for their actions through a ramified system of uh,
Hermeneutics.
hermeneutics. It was because of this progressive tendency of the Pharisees that their interpretation of the Torah continued to develop and has remained a living force in Judaism. The Pharisees were primarily not a political party, but a society of scholars and pietists. They enjoyed a large popular following, and in the New Testament, they appeared as spokesmen for the majority of the population. About 100 BCE, a long struggle ensued as the Pharisees tried to uh, democratize the Jewish religion and remove it from the control of the temple priests. The Pharisees asserted that God could and should be worshipped even away from the temple and outside Jerusalem. The Pharisees' worship consisted not in bloody sacrifices, the practice of the temple priests, but in prayer and in the study of God's law. Hence, the Pharisees fostered the synagogue as an institution of religious worship, outside and separate from the temple. The synagogue may thus be considered a Pharisaic institution, since the Pharisees developed it, raised it to high eminence, and gave it a central place in Jewish religious life.
That's pretty much what we wanted. But so we see that why we have these synagogues. So now it's through these Pharisees saying, hey, the temple ain't the only place that we got, man. We should be worshiping God all over the place, even outside of Jerusalem. And so these synagogues start getting built, but the synagogues wasn't there till 100 BC until the Pharisees put that thing into place. And so you can see their thought process in that, again, man, we do have to make these decisions even today. It's certain laws that we have today, sisters, i.e., on their minstrel on their side, and do they come to the school? But is the school really a temple? Do they, you know what I'm saying? And these things could cause divisions. A brother could say, "Well, nah, they can't," and then another brother say, and then you got two separate camps that done split off because of something like that. So, or the polygamy. You know what I'm saying? It's just certain topics, certain things that we even have today that we have to deal with, disputes we have concerning the law and what's binding in this current time, what's binding today. So it just, I feel like it just went left. In my opinion, just went left, just with the greed and the power, and just went overboard with defense laws and these oral traditions and so forth. And this is why Yahweh was going hard. Anybody got anything on what just was read, or
Hey,
any feelings
Salaki,
on that? Go ahead, Doc.
I just wanted to touch on what the brother was reading, bring out some more differences between the two, the Sadducees and Pharisees.
Con.
You said, what's the difference between the Sadducees and Pharisees? You say the gospel refer often to the Sadducees
I
and
can't even
Pharisees.
hear him.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear y'all.
I don't think Brother Dion can. You can hear me, brother?
Brother Dion, you can't hear?
No, man, he's still spinning. I'm gonna go out and come back in.
Con.
Say the gospel refer often to the Sadducees and Pharisees, as Jesus was in almost constant conflict with them. The Sadducees and Pharisees comprise the ruling class of Jews and Israel. There are some similarities between the two groups, but important differences between them as well. To say the Pharisees and Sadducees were just religious sects within Judaism during the time of Christ. Both groups honored Moses and the law, and they both had a measure of political power. The Sanhedrin, the 70-member Supreme Court of ancient Israel, had members from both the Sadducees and Pharisees. The difference between the Pharisees and Sadducees are known to us through a couple of passages of scripture and through the extant writing of the Pharisees. Religiously, the Sadducees were more conservative in one doctrinal area. They insisted on a literal interpretation of the text of scripture. The Pharisees, on the other hand, gave oral tradition equal authority to the written word of God. If the Sadducees couldn't find a command in the Tanakh, they dismissed it as man-made. And they say, given the Pharisees and Sadducees differing view of scripture, it's not surprising that they argue over certain doctrines. The Sadducees rejected the belief in the resurrection of the dead, but the Pharisees did believe in the resurrection. The Sadducees denied the afterlife, holding that the soul perished at death, but the Pharisees believed in the afterlife and in an appropriate reward and punishment for individuals. The Sadducees rejected the idea of an unseen spiritual world, but the Pharisees taught the existence of angels and demons in a spiritual realm. And they go on and on. That's just a couple of differences between the two.
Right, all praises, Con. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that Sanhedrin a little bit. We're going to get into a couple of those precepts that they'll pull to establish what the doctrine was from the Sadducees. We're not going to go through all of it because it's just so much. It's, it's all in the New Testament, man, dealing with these folks, dealing with these particular individuals. And that's why it's important to know the history of them, because Christ is dealing with these folks tremendously throughout the text, man. He's dealing with them, and I'm talking about dealing with them. We're going to start with Luke chapter 2 in verse 46. We're going to see him dealing with him as a child. Luke 2 in 46. Shalom, Sister Celicia. Shalom, Brother Dixon. I gotta start learning how to pin these things up.
Hey, this is the book of Luke, chapter 2, verse 46. saying it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both
Sitting in the
hearing
midst
him.
of the doctors. What's a better translation for the doctors? Now this Christ, they looking for Christ. They done went for Passover. I think he 12 right now, and they looking for him. Parents look, Joseph and Mary looking for him, and then they found him, and he's in the midst of the doctors.
I would say, would the doctors be considered like?
I
I don't
remember
know,
you
guys.
said it. We talked
Priests or
about it.
whatever?
It'll be priests. That's a good one. Just teachers, just priests, teachers, so forth. I don't know why they put doctors there, but anyway. But he at the temple, sitting in the midst. Who gonna be at the temple, man? The teachers, the priests. Go ahead.
Both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answer. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrow.
That's all I wanted out. So, I just wanted to deal with Yahushua first. He's listening to him. He listening and he's asking questions. All right, that's not just in the text for no reason. All right, he's listening, he's asking questions, he's learning their doctrine so that he can correct it. And that's at 12 years old. That was at 12. Examples of them refusing to eat or be around commoners. So we seen that the Pharisees, they felt they was they was them guys, man, and so they didn't want to eat with commoners. Why? Because they were separatists. All right, they felt like commoners maybe eating defiled food, maybe worshiping abominable things and bowing down to Baal and so forth. They didn't even let them folks touch them. All right, so here's a couple examples of that in the text. Mark 2:13.
This is the book of St. Mark chapter 2 and verse 13. And he went forth again, by the seaside, and all the multitude resorted unto him, and he taught them. You there?
Yeah, I'm there. Mark 2:13.
And he taught them, and as he passed by, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at the receipt of custom, and said unto him, Follow me. And he arose and followed him. And it came to pass that as the Messiah sat at meat in his house, many publicans and sinners sat also together with the Messiah and his disciples, for there were many, and they followed him. And when the scribes and Pharisees saw him eat with publicans and sinners, they said unto his disciples, How is it that he eateth and drinketh with publicans and sinners? When the Messiah heard it, he said unto them, They that are whole have no need of a physician, but they that are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. That's probably why they use that word doctors. You feel me?
God. Yeah, but you see the triflingness too of the Pharisees, man. Instead of them asking Christ, they went to the disciples, man. Why your boy eating with them folks like that? He's supposed to be that guy. Why he over there eating with the sinners and the publicans, man? Why he eat with trash like that? The righteous people, to set apart. We don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. It's the tradition of the elders. You're not supposed to be doing that. And Yahushua slipped around and heard them and understood what they were saying, man, and then answered. And so you can imagine that conversation where he sneaked this in. He trying to whisper to one of the disciples, And then, the person you sitting here talking about,
You got
go
caught.
ahead go ahead and check you on it. And you like, wait a minute,
Yeah, man.
because you already like, man, is he the Messiah? Is he?
Hey,
And then
hey,
go ahead.
so that remind me of that scene from Baby Boy when he was in there talking to his partner, and Van Rain raised her
And
like
then,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
God,
Yeah, man.
God, yeah. Be scared to death.
Mm.
It mean for that to get out. Let's look at Luke 7:36.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 7, verse 36. And one of the Pharisees desired him that he would eat with him. And he went into the Pharisee's house and sat down to meat. And behold, a woman in the city, which was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box of ointment and stood at his feet behind him weeping, and began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with the ointment. And when the Pharisees which had bidden him saw it, he spake within himself, saying, This man, if he was a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that touched him, for she is a sinner.
So we see it again, them speaking, trying to speak within themselves. A lesson came right after that, but again, we just going through this text not to really show the faults, but just to that can be another whole lesson on the spirit of the Pharisees, but just to show some of those texts that kind of showed that their doctrine, kind of showed that they were following this thing where they didn't want people touching them. They thought it was a sin. They thought it was it was against them oral traditions. It was against that Talmud for people, the commoners, to be touching you or to be eating with you. Another example is Peter. When Peter was eating with those folks, man, and he got up real quick and Paul had to rebuke him. I ain't put it in here just for time purposes, but those people who came in, who you thought they were Pharisees and Pharisees and Sadducees coming in there, and Peter jumped up real quick, scared of these folk, because they do have some political power. They do have some pull in the city. Scribes, chief priests, Pharisees took counsel. Now we're going to that word counsel there. Let's look at John 11:41. John 11:41. It was something else I was supposed to show y'all too. I didn't. I made it show it at the end. I didn't put it in here.
This is the book of St. John, chapter 11, and verse 41. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And the Messiah lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou hearest me always. But
All right, this is the context, Shalaki. Just the context, this is Lazarus being resurrected. Go ahead, Doc.
But because of the people which stand by, I say it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. The Messiah said unto them, Loose him and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which the Messiah did believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them.
Wait a minute. So watch. Look how that thing, how the tone changed. All right. Some of them that believed, seen that thing and believed on them. But there was some that ran to them Pharisees. Mm-hmm. They went and ran to the Pharisees, man. You need to come look at what this joke over here doing. He trying to take y'all spot. He finna take your spot, man. Go ahead.
Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him. And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that the Messiah should die for that nation, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad. Then from that,
Go
what's
ahead,
that?
Shalaki.
Then from that day forth, they took counsel together for to put him to death.
Con. So we see here that, you know, right after that they went to council. They went to the scribes, the chief priests, the Pharisees took counsel. And Brother Michael was bringing out in that article about the Sanhedrin. So when you look at that word council, and we're gonna look at it real quick, but that word count, you don't see Sanhedrin in the text when we're reading, you know, it translated in English, but in Greek you will see Sanhedrin in there. So they went into the Sanhedrin. They at that Sanhedrin having this council on how we should kill the Messiah. All right, and Caiaphas, the high priest that year, you know, he had to step in and let them know that, yeah, it's good that one man should die for this nation. While they're arguing, they arguing, they going back and forth. All right, they you know, they in full sweat arguing, about to come to blows in these Sanhedrin on what should we do with this man, because he's finna ruin all of our places and he gonna ruin the nation. The Romans gonna come in and take everything from us.
Mm. Yeah, gift destroy the heart.
A gift destroyeth the heart. So that's what I'm saying. This is one of the things. But again, you know, I didn't build a lesson for us to see, you know, it's just really just to see them, you know, to see them, to understand them, but not necessarily to go too in depth on the error in their ways. You know, we probably set up another class for that. But you know, that we gonna see it in, you know, this Matthew 23. That'll do that, you know, that's gonna do it. Here go Paul banging against the Sanhedrin. Let's look at Acts 23, and we're gonna read 1 through 11. The Sanhedrin, I said it was a council of 71. And these things were handled. I think I got it in here though. I think I did put that in here. I left one thing out that I'm probably just gonna paraphrase for y'all at the end on, you know, another important element of the development, and then y'all can just look into it.
It's the book of Acts, chapter 22, verse 1.
23, Shalaki.
Oh, Acts 23. It's Acts 23, verse 1. And Paul, earnestly beholding the council, said, men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God until this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded them that stood by him to smite him on the mouth.
Come on, wait a minute now. That's what I was talking about. They coming to blows. They coming to blows in this Sanhedrin. They not playing, man. These are heavy topics. They not just sitting down here, you know, with the darn white wigs on and hitting the javelin. No, man. They coming to blow. Tell you, man, slap that joker, man.
Yeah. Hey, so like y'all, I don't know if you ever seen that type of council in UK. They totally different from how they do it over here. They be in each other's face like you talking about.
Yeah, I think I seen a big rumble one time.
Yeah, man.
With them over there. Yeah, man. Them jokers be in suits and stuff, but they be rumbling.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man.
I should have had like a little snippet video to this jokers in there rumbling. Yeah, I ain't even. He said, smite that joker. Go ahead.
Verse 3, it said, then said Paul unto him, God shall smite thee,
Mm.
Thou whited wall,
Mm.
for sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law?
Mm.
And they that stood by said, Revelest thy God's high priest. Then said Paul, I wish not, brethren, that he was the high priest, for it is written, Thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. But then Paul perceived that the one part was Sadducees and the other Pharisees. He cried out in the council, Men and brethren, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee.
This
And
political right here. This a political move Paul making. You know, he seen one side with Pharisees, the other side Sadducees. Listen, man, I'm a Pharisee. Go ahead, Shalaki.
so of the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am called in question. And when he had so said, there arose a dissension between the Pharisees and Sadducees, and the multitude was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, neither angel nor spirit. But the Pharisees confess both. And there arose a great cry. And the scribes that were of the Pharisees apart rose and strove, saying, We find no evil in this man. But if
Shalaki. So you know, Paul knew that he could throw that out there. Listen, I'm a Pharisee. All I'm talking about is the the death, burial, and resurrection, man. We believe in the resurrection as Pharisees, and that immediately caused beef, caused them to be rumbling in there. And now a scribe of the Pharisees, then there was a great cry out, man. Jokers in there hollering, man. It's a great cry out, and they say, man, I don't find no fault. Ain't no fault in this man. Of the scribes of the Pharisees, they like, nah, man, that's what we believe. No. Y'all, Paul, right? Man, we find no fault in this man. Like it's a rumble in there. We read these things casually, but man, them jokers in there having it, they going at it and ready to tear each other up. Go ahead, Doc.
They say we find no fault in this man. But if a spirit or an angel have spoken to him, let us not fight against God. And when there arose a great dissension, the chief captain, fearing lest Paul should have been pulled in pieces of them, commanded the soldiers to go down and to take him by force from among them, and to bring him into the council. And the night following, the Lord stood by him and said, Be of good cheer, Paul, for as thou hast testified of me in Jerusalem, so must thou bear witness also in Rome.
God. So he said, be good cheer. So not that it was such a rumble that they had to send the Roman soldiers in to go get Paul out of there. They had to send the Roman soldiers in to get Paul out of there, and then when the Roman soldiers taking Paul to the cell, Christ come down, tell him, listen, man, just the way you testify to me, be a good cheer, man. Just the way you testify to me in Jerusalem, you gonna also do that and bear witness of me in Rome. All right, this road ain't over yet, man. You finna get out of here. Don't even worry about it, man. This thing we just getting started. The Sanhedrin, that's that Synedrian, kind of what it sounds like in Greek. But this is the word for council. Y'all can see where that mouse is. I don't know if y'all can see my mouse.
Go side to side.
Yeah, I was moving the side to side right there.
You must be too low.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, y'all may can't see it. But you see where it said King James translates Strong's G4892. It's a word for council. It said council for 22 times for council. All right, and outline biblical usage. So when you see council in the text, it's really the Sanhedrin. All right, they at council. They really in that Sanhedrin, in that municipal courtroom with those 70 elders made of the sages and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. It says here, outline loosely, the Sanhedrin, the great council at Jerusalem, consisted of 71 members, viz, scribes, elders, prominent members of the highly priestly families, and the high priest, the president of the assembly. The most important causes were brought before the tribunal. In as much as the Roman rulers of Judea had left to it the power of trying such cases and also of pronouncing sentence of death, with the limitation that a capital sentence pronounced by the Sanhedrin was not valid unless it was confirmed by the Roman procurator. All right, smaller tribunals, any session of magistrates, judges, ambassadors, etc. All right, so that Sanhedrin is in the text, is just the word for council. He knoweth the hearts. Let's look at Luke 16:12. Luke 16:12. And just got a few more slides here.
This is the book of Luke, chapter. Is it on me?
God.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 16 and verse 12. And if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. And the Pharisees also, who were covetous, heard all these things, and they derided him. And he said unto them, Ye are they which justify yourselves before men, but God knoweth your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is abomination in the sight of God. The law and the prophets were until John. Since that time the kingdom of God is preached, and every man presseth into it. And it is easier for heaven and earth to pass than one tittle of the law to fail.
So again, we see the covetousness kicking in of the Pharisees, them wanting to be high and mighty, them wanting to be the ones that everybody looked up to. And they see that, Yahushua getting some of this attention. He's telling them he's giving them, just a lesson on, those trying to chase after riches rather than chase after the kingdom. And that you can't serve two masters. They hated that little lesson there. Try to deride him. And again, he called them out, man. Y'all justify yourselves before men. And said the Most High, those things that highly esteemed among men are abominable. That's a lesson there, man. Those things that are highly esteemed to the most to men are abominable to the Most High. And no tittle.
Man.
Shalaki, go ahead again.
I was just saying that should be a gauge.
Con.
Yeah.
Con. Luke 13 and 31.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 13, verse 31. The same day there came certain of the Pharisees, saying unto him, Get thee out and depart hence, for Herod will kill thee. And he said unto them, Go ye and tell that fox, Behold, I cast out devils, and I do curses today and tomorrow, and the third day I shall be perfected. Nevertheless, I must walk today and tomorrow, and the day following. For it cannot be that a prophet perish out of Jerusalem. Keep going on.
Yeah, go ahead to 35, Shalaki.
Verse 34 said, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, which killest the prophet, and stonest them that are sent unto thee. How often would I have gathered thy children together, as a hen doeth gather her brood under her wings, and ye would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. And verily I say unto you, ye shall not see me until the time come when ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord.
Selah. It says, behold, the house is left desolate. All right, you ain't gonna see me again till ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. So listen, look at that verse 2. He said, the Pharisees eat the same there that came certain of the Pharisees saying, unto him, get thee out and depart, for Herod will kill thee. All right, trying to give him warning that Herod will kill thee. Says, go thee. Watch how Yahweh coming back. Go ye and tell that fox. Go ye and tell that fox, behold, I cast out devils today and tomorrow. And it says, I listen, old Jerusalem, for it cannot be that a prophet perish out of Jerusalem. That prophet had to perish. He understood that he had to perish in Jerusalem. I'm not going nowhere. I know what's at the end of this thing. I know what I gotta do. And it said, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who killest thy prophets." Understanding that assignment again, seeing the Pharisees, and initially, man, in the beginning, the Pharisees. How did the three wise? Well, not the three wise men, but Herod know that to start trying to kill the firstborn, that the Messiah was gonna come. It was told by the sages and the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They let him know again because they weren't trying to lose their position. They hated Christ. They hated Christ had that fame. Look at Mark 3. Mark 3 and read 1 through 12. And it had to be the Pharisees because the Sadducees didn't believe in no Messiah. They didn't believe in no resurrection. They didn't believe in angels and all of that. So it had to be the Pharisees.
This is the book of St. Mark, chapter 3 and verse 1. And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand. And they watched him, whether he would heal him on the Sabbath day, that they might accuse him. And he said unto the man which had the withered hand, stand forth. And he said unto them, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or to do evil. Shalaki. And he said unto them, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or to do evil, to save life, or to kill?
Shalaki. And that's that was an important question. He like it's in question for him. He's finna wither this hand, but before he wither, he asking him, hey, is it okay to do good on the Sabbath day? Is it lawful to kill, or lawful to what's it? Lawful to save a life? Trying to drive this thing home to him. Go ahead.
But they held their peace, and when he had looked round about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he said unto them, stretch forth unto the man, stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. And the Pharisees went forth and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him.
Where they at? They took counsel. Where they at right now?
In the synagogue.
Now, where they go to take counsel? It said the Pharisees went forth and straightway. Straightway truth. That ministry is straightway, meaning you went straight there. You went straight there. You ain't stop at no lights. Yeah, you were focused, man. You were focused. You went straight there, and you took counsel. Where were they at? He took counsel with the Herodians, the Pharisees, the Herodians there, huh?
They ain't go straight to the Romans, did
they? In the Sanhedrin, the council.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, they had the Sanhedrin. They had that Sanhedrin again. I just want y'all to click in on that council. They took counsel.
Shalakia. Stress with the hand. Straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. But the Messiah withdrew himself with his disciples to the sea, And a great multitude from Galilee followed him, and from Judea, and from Jerusalem, and
Shalaki, hold up. I'll read it slow, man. A great deal of people from where?
from Judea, and from Jerusalem, and from Idumea, and from Galilee,
And from
and
Idumea and from beyond Jordan.
from beyond Jordan,
Mm.
and they about Tyre and Sidon, a great multitude. And when they had heard what great things he did, came unto him, and he spake to his disciples that a small ship should wait on him because of the multitude, lest they should throng him. For he had healed many, insomuch that they pressed upon him for to touch him, as many as had plagues and unclean spirits. When they saw him, fell down before him, and cried, saying, Thou art the Son of God. And he straightly charged them that they should not make him known.
Con, and he warned them, don't make that, don't tell nobody. And it's that part of that ministry where at first he didn't really want nobody to tell anybody what he was doing. But you see the magnitude of the people is saying that they would throng him, they would press him, they would crush him because there was so many people. So they had to put him in a boat and put him out there in the middle of the water so he can speak to him, because there was so many people trying to fall to him, trying to get healed, trying to touch his garment, and people that, they ain't in no single file line. People like at a darn rock concert.
It's a mob.
It's
Could
a
be a
mob,
stampede,
man.
man.
It's
Stampede.
a mob, and right, and they trying to get healed. Okay, they trying to get healed. They trying to get healed, man. They trying to get that monkeypox off of them.
Grab the back.
All right. Hey, it's the lock y'all. Hey, just reading. When the brother was reading, starting at 7, ending at verse 9, man, them were a lot of.
Yes, sir. I just threw it out there. Hey. Yeah. I just threw it. I just threw that out there. I ain't throw it. It's there. I ain't throw it. It's there.
Oh, done.
So, but yeah. So, a lot of foreign nations hearing of him, and they are following.
He ain't go off on them on the water, did he?
Did he go off? Nah, he go off on him. He didn't go off on him, man. He most so dealt with them, dealt with his disciples. Far as them not understanding, who they had with him. But yeah, that's all we wanted again, just to show that multitude, and them Pharisees hated that, man. They hated to see that mob chasing after this new guy on the block.
Right.
So we're just gonna dabble a little bit at Matthew 23. Again, Matthew 23, he lets them Pharisees have it, being hypocrites, the hypocrisy, the leaven of the Pharisees. And that's why it's good to understand who these people are, because they are the main characters. They're some of the main characters in this text where Yahushua's ministry was. And they was following him. They wanted to see everything he was doing. And all this stuff had to be played out the way it was played out. But we'll start reading now, and then I had you just jump over a couple of places, jump over a few spots, and I may have like 1 or 2 more slides.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 1.
But this is Yahushua characterizing, just giving you all the characteristics of these Pharisees, which, is going to match up with history, but a lot of this stuff was the history is kind of took in from the text. And then later, later they developed it, and who they wanted to think was Pharisees, Sadducees,
Matthew 23, verse 1. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works, for they say and do not.
Shalakia. And so you again, when we was reading earlier some of the history, it's the Pharisees that wanted to separate. The Sadducees wanted to be Hellenized. They wanted more of the Hellenization. They wanted the Greek customs and the Roman customs to come in. And this is why they were the risky. This is why they were the leaders. But the Pharisees was like, lie, man. Like we ain't trying to do that. We trying to come back to Torah. We trying to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. So you see, I was trying to tell them, man, listen, a lot of stuff they saying is right, man. Do what they telling you to say, but don't do as they do. They're some hypocrites. Go ahead.
Verse 4. It says, for they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uppermost rooms at feast and the chief seats in the synagogue.
They love them chief seats. Man, it's their idea for the synagogues. They probably built a little Pharisaic section on their own. They had their own little section where, ain't none of these other jokers come. The upper room. You can't come up here. You peasants, y'all stay on down there. But we gonna be at the upper room, man. We in the upper room. All right? That's where we at. All right, with the enlarged phylacteries and enlarged fringes, man. We got our fringes extra long, so everybody can see us. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. But be not ye called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be you called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased. And he that shall humble himself shall be exalted.
Shalaki, drop down to verse 16. Baba Kashah.
Verse 16. Say, woe unto you, ye blind guides, which say, whomsoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. But whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. Ye fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctify the gold? And whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing. But whosoever swear by the gift that is upon it, he is guilty.
So look what he's saying now. Look what he's saying. He's saying, woe to you blind guys, whoever say, swear by the temple. You ain't got to keep that, man. It ain't really, you ain't really saying nothing. You know what I'm saying? But if you say, I swear by the gold in the temple, then, you a debtor to that. Like now you got to do it. Now it's serious because you swore to the gold in the temple rather than the temple. It's almost like, somebody, jokers, how they demoralize, saying like, these kids say on God, and it don't really mean nothing. It don't mean nothing now. You know what I'm saying? But if they say I put that on folk them, or I put that on one of these little jokers done got murdered out here, then he really mean it now. He must be telling the truth then. It's kind of the same thing that they're doing to the temple versus the goal. Go ahead.
Verse 19. Ye fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gift or the altar that sanctified the gift? Whoso therefore shall swear by the altar, sweareth by it, and by all things thereon. And whoso shall swear by the temple, sweareth by it, and by him that dwelleth therein. And he that shall swear by heaven, swear by the throne of God, and by him that sitteth thereon. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have anointed the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the others undone. Ye blind guides, which strain at a neck and swallow a camel. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess.
Con, that's all I wanted out. And again, this whole chapter just eating. It's just he just chopping at these Pharisees. All right, the whole chapter.
Man,
Go ahead, you had something.
I have to say it's like I've said the other day, man. There's some jokers be out there fame, man, talking to somebody like
that. You right,
Yeah,
man. You could sit there and eat that. You could sit there and eat that.
Yeah, man.
But yes, cleaning the outside. You clean the outside, but inside, you white sepulchres, man. Nicodemus speaks out. I think this the last slide here, y'all. Don't hold me to it. If it ain't the last, it's second to last. I know. John 3, and we're gonna read 1 through 12. It's about dealing with Nicodemus. And we done read this a million times, but now we know a little something. How these Pharisees be acting and moving, and where all this stuff come from. And what it means that you're a ruler of the Jews. Go ahead.
Shalakia, this is the book of St. John, chapter 3 and verse 1. There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews.
A ruler of the Jews, a Pharisee. Go ahead.
The same came to the Messiah by night and said unto him, Rabbi, we know that thou art a teacher come from God. For no man can do these miracles that thou doest, except God be with him.
Now, hold on now. Who is the we? Who is the we, though? He a Pharisee. All right, he done came, and he's sneaking. He done came at night, man. You can't be walking around at night. He done came sneaking in at night to talk to Yahushua. And he said, we know that that you can't, can't no ordinary man just do that stuff that you doing, man. We know you the Messiah. All right, we know it. And so he's talking about, these Pharisees. All right, they know, but they don't want to admit it. They don't want to deal with it. But they know. Go ahead.
The Messiah answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. Nicodemus said unto him, How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter the second time into his mother's womb and be born? So he's being a little facetious right there.
Is he?
God.
He a teacher. He a teacher too now.
Well, he's
ain't no
testing him.
But he could be. He could be. I'm not saying that, I have the answer to your question right here. What you think, Brother Michael?
I finna say I don't think he was being sarcastic with the question. I think it might have been a genuine answer.
I'm
pretty sure how Jesus would have caught that, man. He would.
Because he's sneaking too. He's sneaking at night.
He is being sarcastic, brother. Trust me. He's first of all, like you just said, he's sneaking at night, and he know that ain't never been done before. You ain't got no grown man crawling back in the womb. You being facetious right now.
There it is.
Okay.
But Shalakia, the Messiah answered and said, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Marvel, Shalakia, marvel not that I said unto thee, ye must be born again. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh, and whither it goeth. So is every one that is born of the Spirit. Nicodemus answered and said unto him, how can these things be? The Messiah answered and said unto him, art thou a master of Israel, and knowest not these things?
Come on, what
Are
is a
you teaching
master?
me?
What is a master? What's a better translation for the master?
A teacher, a priest.
A teacher, come.
Uh, verily, verily, I said unto thee, we speak that we do know, and testify that we have seen, and ye receive not our witness.
Mm.
If
Go.
I have told you earthly things, and ye believe not, how shall ye believe if I tell you heavenly things?
How should you believe if I tell you heavenly things? You can't believe the earthly things. I told you it's like the wind. All right, you don't know where the wind coming from. You don't know which way if it blow off and so forth, man. The spirit, you know that rebirth is kind of on that same level, man. You know, if you don't believe it, you didn't believe those simple things. I can't break it down to you like that. I'm gonna break you down these spiritual things, these heavier matters. But he told you not to even marvel at it. Don't even marvel at what I just, you know. Don't let that thing hit you, man. Just just believe in that thing, man. So where's Nicodemus at right now? Where's Nicodemus at this? You know, is he in limbo? Is he 1 foot in, 1 foot out? Does he believe?
He definitely got questions. I don't think he have little faith.
Ye of little faith.
And
All
this is
right.
the ruler of the Jews.
This is a ruler. I wouldn't say, you know. Let me look at it again. Because he's a Pharisee, a ruler of the Jews, a ruler of the Jews. I won't say the ruler of the Jews, but the Pharisees were, you know, they were rulers, man. The Pharisees had the public opinion. Like when the Pharisees said something, that's why I wanted to grab some other stuff for y'all with the Hasmonean dynasty and you know, it was during a reign where the one who was a queen, she brought the Pharisees back in, but before her husband wanted the Sadducees and murdered a lot of the Pharisees. But she, once her husband died and she got control, she brought the Pharisees back and kind of brought Israel back to the, you know, back to the Torah, and then you know they had a little piece that, you know, they were kind of doing right. I wouldn't say kind of doing right; they were doing right, you know, under the rest of her reign. And then her son ended up getting the kingdom took again, getting control took again from the Romans. But
Shalakia.
go
So
ahead.
is it safe to say that the Pharisees were primarily Jews, or were there any
Yeah, the Pharisees
Levites?
were definitely Jews.
Okay, no, there wasn't no Levites. I mean, I know the Jews was north southern tribe, southern kingdom, but you know,
They could have been. Yeah, go ahead.
Levi could have been a Pharisee too.
Yeah, they like it was because after the Maccabean revolt, man, a lot of that stuff, man, a lot of folks lost a lot of folks was losing their lineage, man, on whether they were, you know, whether they were of Levi or whether they was of Judah. And then they had the king be the high priest. So a lot of the kings during the Hasmonean dynasty, those that was under that Hasidian, you know, we read earlier, Hasidian and family, the Pharisees felt like they were part of that family. So all of them felt like, kind of, I ain't gonna say all of them, but majority of them felt like they were spiritually from that lineage of Judah, of that king priest reign during that Hasmonean dynasty. So you know, a lot of them probably just, a lot of them were probably just going by Jews, felt they were Jews, felt they were, you know, Judah. But you know, and that's what some of the issues is, that they weren't, you know, the Levites weren't in there like that no more. They wasn't in there like that. Now the Sadducees probably considered themselves Levites and of that Aaron lineage, and this is why they controlled the temple, and this is why they was all about the temple. They really wasn't. They was all about them first 5 books. They wasn't really, dealing with those other books. They were dealing with it, but it wasn't authoritative to them. John chapter 7 and verse 45. We're gonna see Nicodemus we're gonna see Nicodemus again now. John chapter 7 and 45.
This book of John, chapter 7, verse 45. Then came the officers to the chief priests and Pharisees, and they said unto them, why have you not brought him? The officers answered, Never man speak like this man.
Now, wait a minute now. Where they at? Where y'all think they at? They at the Sanhedrin again. All right. Then came. Oh, Shalakia. Let me get my brother back in. Then came the officers. Shalom. Then came the officers and the man, I lost my place. The officers to the chief priests and Pharisees, and they said, man, why you ain't brought them? Like, what you doing? How y'all coming back here empty-handed? Why y'all ain't brought Christ, man? Where he at? Where the man at? They like, man, I ain't never heard nobody speak like that, man. I ain't never heard. I don't know if I should be putting my hands on that joker, man. I ain't never heard nobody speak like this man. I ain't never heard it. Go ahead.
Verse 47. Then answered them the Pharisees, are ye also deceived?
Come on now, y'all done got tricked too? He done tricked y'all too? Go ahead.
Have any of the rulers or of the Pharisees believed on him?
Come on
but
now.
These people who knoweth not the law are cursed. Nicodemus said unto them, he that came to Jesus by night, being one of them, doeth all law judge any man before it hear him and know what he doeth?
Shalaki, now wait a minute now. Nicodemus trying to sneak his look, he done had that encounter with Yahushua. All right. And before that, the Pharisees didn't answer. Verse 48, have any of the rulers or the Pharisees believed on them? The Pharisees asking that, man, have any of us believed on them? Jokers who believe on them, they don't know the law. They don't know the book. We ain't believed on them. Why you sitting up here getting deceived, man? We the ones you supposed to be listening to. Supposed to be listening to no joker out of Galilee, man, running around here with these little rebellious people, man. Come on now. Breaking the Sabbath and doing all this foolishness, man. Healing on the Sabbath, eating corn and stuff, man. You gotta put these folk to death, man. Casting out demons in the name of y'all. What we told you. Don't listen to him. What did we tell you? Go ahead.
Verse 52. They answered and said unto him, art thou also of Galilee? Search and look.
Well, that joker Nicodemus tried to sneak into the conversation. Well, listen, man, don't we by the law, don't we supposed to listen to the joker before we persecute him? And the Pharisee said, man, are you a Galilean too, man? Like, are you from Galilee? And because Galilee is so high, Galilee past Samaria. You got to go through Samaria to get to Galilee. And they pretty much tell you, man, they idiots in Galilee, man. Them dummies up there. I thought you was a Pharisee. You must be from Galilee, man. You talking like you from Galilee, brother. You ain't read the text. Go ahead.
And it says, search and look, for out of Galilee ariseth no prophet, and every man went unto his own house.
Come on, and everybody went to their own house, man. They left the Sanhedrin, went to their own house. But he told them, man, search the scriptures, man. Ain't nowhere talking about nobody talking about no darn Galilee, but they didn't know that, Yahushua was born in Bethlehem. And then just came back to Galilee to live. And so they didn't know he fit the prophecy, and that's all about design.
And it's like y'all, he was talking to them, man. They were talking to him like Denzel, man.
Yeah,
like when Denzel told him, man, you a man or a woman, I forget. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you must be from Galilee too. Then you acting
Yeah.
like yeah, man.
Right. Right, man. You know, they were talking tough, man. And that
Oh,
was Nicodemus, man. You know, Nicodemus. So Nicodemus had a little something in him. It was something sparked in him, you know, to be again, this ain't no regular. When we read about that Sanhedrin, man, 70 of the top rulers, man, 70 of these folks sitting inside of here and they having this thing, man. We seen the battles and the back and forth. We seen Paul about to get torn into pieces in this place. And Nicodemus stood up and he whispered, you know, he stood up and he like, hey man, you know, don't we supposed to judge somebody, you know? And that thing could have got him hit, man. But you know, evidently he had enough pull to survive that. He knew how far he could go, you know. And he didn't say much else after that. But you know, he spoke up for him. But that was the last slide there, y'all. Just dealing again. You just wanted to deal with some of the you know, just some of the characteristics of the Pharisees, where this stuff stemmed from, where it started, and how this beef arose between them right after that Maccabean revolt. Anybody got any questions on anything? Or
so like
anything that go ahead up.
I just want to say, it was an excellent class because that's a question I always wondered about. You know, where did they come from? What's the difference between the two? So, yeah, a lot of that was checked off tonight. So,
Come on, all praises, man. And I built this lesson trying to find out who was Nicodemus. I was trying to find out, you know, this ruler, who made him ruler. Like I'm like, you know, that was my initial, like, who made him ruler? Like, why is he the ruler? Is he a Gentile? Like, did the Romans put him in? And then I went down that long road. Which it really ain't a long road. It's just, you know, you just filling in a couple of gaps. And like, yeah, man, we need to talk about the Sanhedrin. We need to talk about how these things end up coming about. Where did these Pharisees and Sadducees come from, man? We can't just be reading the text. We don't know where these folks weren't here. The synagogues wasn't here. You know, folks weren't going to no synagogues before 100 BC. So just understanding where all this stuff coming from. And then you synagogues in other places, man. The Pharisees was like, yeah, man, put a synagogue over there, put a synagogue over there, put a synagogue there. And if it was for the Sadducees, if the Sadducees was in order, then you know, we jokers would just be at that temple. Everybody would have to come to that temple to be fed. But yeah, I yield with that. Anybody, Dion, you got anything? Brother Eleazar, you got anything?
Yeah, kind. Shalaki, y'all, man.
Nah, you answered my question. That pretty much is it.
Kind. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you out.
Yeah. Shalakia, man. I was in a bad area, man. But yeah, and that just goes to show you about keeping things in cultural context. And we never read the Bible in cultural context. Trying to understand to get the real clarity of what was happening in the first century. You know what I mean? And to realize that you had different sects of Pharisees, right? They was like you had different sets of disciples. You had different sects of Pharisees. One of y'all brothers put a piece up. 17. You had different sets of Pharisees.
Shalaki, I say it one more time. We think we kind of missed it.
Yeah, I can't hear nothing he's saying.
Acts 28 and 17.
Acts 28:17.
Okay. And kind of read down a little bit.
He's still spinning over here, so y'all got to tell me what he's talking about.
Okay, we got y'all. 28 and 17.
Yeah, okay.
You want me to read? I can read it.
Yeah, okay, the water.
And it came to pass that after 3 days, Paul called the chief of the Jews together. And when they were come together, he said unto them, men and brethren, though I have committed nothing against the people or customs of our father, yet I was delivered prisoner from Jerusalem into the hands of the Romans,
Go ahead.
who, when they had examined me, would have let me go, because there was no cause of death in me. But when the Jews spake against it, I was constrained to appeal unto Caesar. Not that I had aught to accuse of my nation of. For this cause, therefore, I have called for you, to see you and to speak with you, because that for the hope of Israel I am bound with this chain.
You know what?
And they said unto him, we neither receive letters out of Judea concerning thee, neither any of the brethren that came showed or spake any harm of thee. But we desire to hear of thee what thou thinkest. For as concerning this sect, we know that everywhere it is spoken against. And when they had appointed him a day, there came many to him into his lodging, to whom he expounded and testified the kingdom of God, persuading them concerning Yahushua, both out of the law of Moses and out of the prophets, from morning to evening.
Yeah, kind. So you see, it said concerning this set, we know everything where it's spoken of, meaning where Christ was spoken of in the scriptures. Like Brother Phineas said, that they were saying what good come out of Nazareth, but that's the same thing that Nathaniel said when you go into John. I mean, for John 1 and verse 47, when Yahweh seen Nathaniel, and Nathaniel said that where you know me from. And then to make a long story short, he was like, what good come out of Nazareth? Because Christ didn't come out of Nazareth. He was born in Bethlehem, and the prophecy said that the Messiah was going to come out of Bethlehem. Right? He was born in a manger. So I was just proving, showing you in that aspect that there was another set of the Pharisees that said that they knew everywhere it was spoken of that Christ was this Messiah. And so they pointed Paul a day, and from morning to night, he expounded where the prophecies was saying that Christ was going to be that guy. So good lesson, brother. So I'm sorry I missed him. I had to go back and do a rewind on it, man. But the water for the information, brother.
Man, I am the bar. I'll praise to the Most High. That's an excellent point. It's an excellent point, man. Also, you see him almost, he's being appointed a trial. They're doing things, legislatively, like, okay, we gonna appoint him a time, and then like he on a house arrest where people are being able, once they found no fault in him, people are coming to see Paul, and he's still ministering in this situation to his court date. But again, man, we just seeing how these folks operate, man, seeing how these things were playing out, seeing how these folks thought about the commoners, thought about the people of Nazareth, thought about the people of Galilee. I think Nazareth is just above Samaria, so you still got to go through Samaria, but Nazareth is right there on that borderline of Samaria, and that's why we got to start looking at, we got to look at these maps, man. All your Bibles, if you got a good reference Bible, and that's why you get your good reference Bible, when you got the little maps in there, and you got to start looking at that stuff, just seeing where the places are, so you can start, when you're reading it, you can start visualizing, saying, oh man, he had to go good ways, man. He a little out of the area a little bit right there, but it'll just help with memorization, and some of these stories and some of these things will start sticking a little better. But if anybody got anything else, man, we can close out, man. I say shalom. Anything else? Shalom, man. Appreciate everybody for checking in. We will be back on Bring It Out TV Friday. Make sure y'all go over there, man. Like, subscribe. Make sure you like, subscribe. You like what we doing here. And with that, we're gonna say shalom, man. Hope this thing was edifying to the body. Shalom.
Shalom.